and only Doublelift, fresh off a sweep and a pentakill.
Gentlemen, great cast on the day here with Doublelift after that pentakill. What did that mean to you to get that pentakill in that game?
I got a lot of pentas in my career, so it just felt pretty good. When I got the quad, I was like, gimme, 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 and my teammates were like, I could get it myself, but Soren set me up, so I love my team. And actually, in the heat of the moment, I didn't even realize that I killed them all. I just know I flashed into 5 people, which usually I just die and I look really dumb, so yeah, it felt pretty good.
Oh, man. And so you were talking about how you were just so hyped up about that, and so you, at the beginning of the day, we ran a little clip of you saying that, you know, Immortals think about us. We don't really think about them at all. But where do you see Immortals as your rivals? Because that seemed to mean a lot to you to actually take them down once again. Well, yeah, Immortals is obviously like clear-cut second best team in NA. I mean, they give us the hardest time, and just playing against them, it might have been like maybe sometimes seems one-sided or whatever. Sometimes seemed like we're just rolling over them in team fights, but it's so hard to make calls against them, to just give the correct information and to execute. Like, we have to play mechanically perfectly, and we have to have the best game strats. So it's really hard. Like, in the middle of the game, it's so stressful. Even when we had a huge lead, I felt a lot of pressure from Immortals. And yeah, I mean, they just play their signature very aggressive style. And I think that last game, their bottom lane was pretty much the biggest reason why they were not able to come back. Because if you're playing Ashe Sona, which is a really big lane dominant lane, then you should not be down 100 CS. So yeah, I think we got pretty lucky in that way. And so you're talking about pressure, and I want to actually reflect on the previous spring split and compare it and contrast it to this split. You finished last split in 6th during the regular season. Now you guys had first place since day 1, week 1, and you've held on to it the entire time. You actually just locked in first place for the spring split, or the summer split here. Is it harder to go through that trial and tribulation of being 6th place and then having to fight your way up? Or is it harder to lead the pack and struggle to find improvement? Oh, dude, last split was definitely harder. I mean, we didn't really think anything was working, and it really sucks when you're coming in as the lowest seed because you have that super difficult journey all the way. I'm gonna say both are really hard, but when you're just getting beaten down week by week and you're throwing 10K gold leads on a weekly basis, it feels so bad. It's really demoralizing. And at the time, I was questioning wow, am I really an elite player? Are we really an elite team? This is the TSM that has been in every single North American finals, and we're 6th place in the regular season. It feels so bad. I feel more at home here, I guess. And I don't know, we're playing an elite team, and I think we can compete at the world level right now. How far does this TSM go? If you guys compete at the world level, where is the ceiling for this TSM team? I mean, the whole goal of TSM, I mean, Reginald was always telling me, even when he signed me, that the goal of TSM is to win Worlds. So that's always been our #1 priority and our dream since the very beginning, you know? When I first started being a pro 6 years ago, that's what I wanted to do, is win Worlds. So I think we're on our way. All right, congratulations on that win once again, Doublelift. Now we're gonna throw it over to the other side of the rift to get an interview with Immortals Pobelter.
Thank you very much, Arena. I'm here with Pobelter. Thank you so much for joining me after a tough loss there. First things first, how are you feeling coming off the series?
I'm actually not too bummed out about it. Yeah, we lost and it was 2-0, but it's always really fun to play against TSM because they're really aggressive and they push us harder than any other team in NA. I mean, it makes sense, right? They're first and we're second, so even though we lost, it was really fun to play, and we have a lot to learn on and improve on before playoffs, so I'm still not that sad about it.
Well, fair enough. It was certainly a fun series to watch. What was your preparation like coming into the series, though? Because I know you've had a flurry of weeks just really dominating a lot of teams, but you expected TSM to be a challenge here. What was sort of the pre-game stuff moving into this series this weekend?
Well, we were pretty hungry to win against TSM for probably the past 3 or 4 weeks because we've lost against them the past 2 times we've played them, and we pretty much dominate every other team. So in practice, we were always like, all right, well, they messed up here, but TSM probably wouldn't, so we should play differently. Because, you know, if this mistake happens, then, you know, TSM's not going to do it. So, yeah, we've really been tunneled in on it. It's gotten to the point where our coach was like, all right, guys, I know we really want to beat TSM, but we're still practicing for other teams. And, yeah, just focus on the team week by week.
And then, of course, the series, definitely a tough loss there. Kind of what went wrong from your perspective as far as the series, though? Because obviously TSM did sweep you here.
Game 1... I think was pretty close, actually. I think we were in a winning position around Dragon, but we kind of rushed in and we started to die 1 by 1 when we should have waited for Storak ult and GP ulti to come back up. I think if we had waited for those, we would have had like a really clean ace there and probably won the game, but we made a misstep there. And then from there, we had some poor side lane wave management. And then whenever Dragon spawned, we would be having to catch waves. So they ended up getting a few Infernal Drakes on us. And then we did start to get caught out a little bit by like Shen, Hecker, and Bard. I think it's a really strong combo. And so they were just constantly forcing plays from, like they would just be brute forcing it, but it's so hard to stop when it's Shen, Hecker, and Bard, Zillion. It's like engaging on you from 2,000 range. Second game was pretty much over after lane phase, I think. Top lane died to a gank, I did do a gank, bot lane was down like 30 CS. And then I think we were feeling kind of desperate, so we tried to make the gank bot, and then we ended up like 3 or 4 people dying there. So that was not great, but we kind of came back a little bit by making good plays towards the top side. But still, it wasn't enough, and I think some people on the team were having some jitters. We were making some really basic mistakes, like people kept walking in and catching zillion double bombs, things like that. So I think we definitely need to tame our nerves a little bit.
Well, one final question here. You've had a strong finish to the regular season, not first this time, but second. It is very likely now that, that you'll play TSM again in the playoffs. If you play them again, what do you expect the result to be?
Well, if you recall Spring Split, we 2-0'd TSM in the regular split and got 3-0'd in playoffs by them. This split, we're 0-2 against them in the regular season, so I'm predicting a 3-0 against them in playoffs.
Well, best of luck. Thank you once again for joining me, Pobelta. We're going to throw it back to Dash and the boys at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Pastry. A smile on Pobelter's face, even in the loss, 2-0 against TSM. I love that correlation between last split, this split. We'll see if the prediction holds true. We also have to thank both Zyrene and Doublelift for the interview as well. It's great to get perspective from both teams in these very high-intensity, high-level matchups. And although it was a 2-0, I think there were many examples throughout the series, both Game 1 and Game 2, that illustrated Immortals' prowess as a League of Legends team. I mean, if you just consider the way that this game started, Azale, with TSM's fantastic gold lead, Immortals really hung in this one.
Yeah, they really did. And I mean, they were able to battle back from such a deficit that it was quite impressive. And at one point, they had closed the gold lead to just over 1,000. So they were very competitive. But to me, the story of this game was bot lane, right? They got absolutely destroyed in the bot lane 2v2. And it was essentially a flame horizon. I know it was at least 98 CS. I don't know if it went to 100, but it's hard to win when your AD carries that far behind, just simply put.
Right, and you can't really put this on matchup too much. Like, both those are very strong lanes, and it really comes down to how you play it. You can say maybe the Silver Karma has a small one, but it's not going to be a 100 CS lead. That's not how that lane goes. And a lot of the worst plays that happened for Immortals centered around dives from the bot lane until the game was finally blown open. And TSM was struggling a little bit just making those plays.
And it's one of those things where, as Immortals, it's like when your team is that far behind, in solo queue, maybe you just cut off the leg, right? But you can't actually do that. You can't abandon them. So they made a play on bot side to try to get Turtle and Adrian back in this game. And when it backfired, it just snowballed the game even further.
Exactly. That's the scary moment. So I do want to dive into that 8:30 replay, the 4-for-1 in favor of TSM so early on in the matchup, coming into the bot lane, defense of a turret dive here, going to turn around on Immortals.
Well, it starts out with the Immortals trying to start the play, but the Bjergsen TP comes in very quickly, and most importantly, he manages to finish channeling it right as Bifrost's about to go down to get the ult save off, and then they just turn it back as the rest of the TPs start channeling in, and Hanser has a monster Gnar ult there, basically is able to take out Turtle while the rest of the team is chasing down the rest of Immortals' front line.
Yep, so Huni will be picked up here underneath the turret, the total of 4 kills for TSM, Raynor gets 1 back. But just not, that's just an insane amount of gold flex for TSM. From there, they can push the wave in, go take the first dragon of the match. So they secure a lot of advantages for themselves. And from this point onward, basically, we said TSM's game to lose, right? The massive gold lead this early on. But that's where we were impressed by Immortals, their ability to extend the game and still somehow kind of slug their way back into it.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing is that when you see a team with as big a lead as TSM has, the losing team usually struggles to keep up in even man fights in the sense where it's not a 3v4 protection, it's a 4v4. Right. And Immortals was always there, pretty much even number strength fighting, which is just a sign of a good team that they're on top, they know what the other team's going to do, and they're able to match it. But unfortunately, they're just a little too far behind.
Yeah, not quite enough. We saw a couple fights go their way. They couldn't quite get it back. I want to move to our next replay. It's going to be another TSM victory, 3-for-0 dive, 20 minutes into the game in the top lane.
Yeah, and this was a big one. This is something where everything kind of goes wrong here for Reno. So watch this. He goes for a flash body slam on Svenskeren, but it's a little too late. Then the ultimate comes out, and it's spell shielded by double lift. And it's kind of just this comedy of errors, everything going a little bit wrong for them. And before that, you know, he had been playing an almost immaculate game. He was actually, you know, the very early stages were not great for him, but he was the one who was kind of the spark plug for the team to actually get them back in a lot of these. And he was the catalyst for a lot of these top lane plays, counter ganks coming in when they were getting dove. And I actually thought Rainover had a pretty solid game, but
I slightly disagree, only just because Gragas versus Hecarim early, you need to have some kind of impact on the map. And the fact that Sven was able to get 2 kills before Gragas had done anything, and he'd basically been seen by all of TSM's wards throughout the early game, he wasn't able to get anything done. And that's a little bit of a problem when you have the matchups that's going to get outscaled and should have earlier pressure.
So let me ask you this, though. How much of that is a product of the fact that the lanes were losing as hard as they were? For example, in that bot lane, when we're sitting at 30% health under our own turret, maybe we can come get some pressure relief, but we can't even necessarily capitalize on ganks.
That's what I was going to say. Is I felt that every lane was already losing before the ganks even happened. They were all down in CS. You know, Pobelter was pushing heavily up in the lane and allowed himself to be ganked, wasted his summoner. Top lane, Huni is no mana, pushed past the river. He dies to a gank. So although, yes, Svenskeren did accomplish more, I felt like it was more because of errors of the laners. And it is hard. It's very hard to be effective as a jungler when every lane is losing, and every lane was losing this game, and I still thought that Rainover was pretty effective, but we are getting a little.
Yeah, I don't want to get too. I don't want to get too in the weeds about it. Obviously, we respect both opinions here, but now I want to move us into our final replay. The game ends off of a double lift pentakill here, coming in at the end on Sivir, as he said himself, a very aggressive flash here into 4 members of the enemy team coming up.
Yeah, this definitely isn't the cleanest fight for TSM. You see Haunter basically go down for free. The problem is Immortals has already blown so many ults and resources to get him that low that once he pops back up from the Ericsson ult, he's basically at full health and there's not a ton of threat at him. And once they start getting low from all the kind of damage from Sivir, she finally flashes in super aggressively there. And the Voidlings all died, so when Rainover goes to turn it, it doesn't work.
And also, speaking about, you know, Pobelter's point, some of the errors, the jitters, he's talking about people walking into double bombs. Guess who did it that fight? It was Wild Turtle, you know, move commanding into a double bomb, which essentially allowed Turtle to flash forward because he knew that the AD carry could not return damage. He's at 10% at that point, and that's a big error to make from Wild Turtle when he was already so much less effective in these fights. He's a full IE behind, plus even more gold on top of that. You cannot afford to have a positioning error like that when you're that far behind. And you know, if double lift comes up big, Wild Turtle not really performing in this game.
Double lift also going to grab player of the game, 10, 1, and 8 on Sivir. That pentakill just a part of it, adding to his total. We're approaching that 1,000 mark. We're going to continue to track it. He's almost there, but also some fantastic spell shields out of him this game. So stellar play mechanically.
Right, I think the biggest thing too is just the lane dominance that he had. It opened up a number of the plays that put TSM ahead, and they're all off the back of his excellent laning. And then playing the team fights well with that lead is super important.
Yeah, definitely some credit to Biofrost as well. He was nailing the karma Qs and just, you should never get a lead that big in professional League of Legends in 2v2. Even with jungle assistance, it's so rare to see.
Right, and it wasn't any early, really.
Yeah,
it was that turn.
Yeah. And well, 991 kills on the season so far. He's got a minimum of 2 games tomorrow against Energy of all teams to pick up those last 9 kills to finish it in the regular season. I do, real quick, want to just take a look at the playoff picture and idea here. As TSM is locked into that #1 position, holding the head-to-head against Immortals, regardless of what happens tomorrow, they will get the #1 seed. Immortals is sitting in that 2nd position right now. So for all intents and purposes, they cannot meet each other necessarily until the end of the playoff run. This could very well be our finals. What are your assessments of these teams moving in toward that playoff picture?
I think the most interesting thing to think about is the changes coming in the patch with the fact that you'll probably see a lot more standard lanes, and we saw Immortals get bopped in standard lanes this game. So I think I had heard their coach be pretty confident about the changes and thinking that standard lanes were good for them. Maybe that's true for most teams, but maybe not the matchup versus TSM.
Yeah, the bot lane is big discrepancy there. You know, it's hard to say anything other than that. But at the same time, Immortals is a very good team. You know, the only team that they have lost to this whole season is TSM. And, you know, Pobelter talked about it, right? Sometimes things don't go as planned in playoffs. And, you know, who knows? Maybe neither of these teams make the finals, right? They're guaranteed to go to Toronto, but it could be the 3rd place match. And, and you never want to get too confident.
Yeah, very presumptuous. James. No, but I have one final question. I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but a point about Huni. Watching him on GP and on Tom Kench this game, we had kind of mentioned that a strategy for Game 2 might be putting him back on a more proactive and playmaking champion. The team seems to be shying a bit away from that.
It's hard to know exactly why, because we were talking about the Tahm Kench being a strong pick overall, but not necessarily great into what we had seen out of TSM's comp. And it also is hard to make, because Huni Reno are really the core of that team, and getting Huni ahead, and it's just not easy to get Tahm Kench ahead versus Anar early. So even though we can say maybe Rainover should have pathed a little differently or something, at the end of the day, it's not a great matchup to look to snowball. So I think there are some concerns if this is going to be their champ pool moving forward.
Yeah, there's always concerns. I mean, people looking back to the Lucian top stuff, sometimes there's some weird stuff. I think Tahm Kench is not that, and I think the idea was certainly try to get ahead, and then you have this tanky duo ulting in behind them, bring in Rainover and Huni and collapse or whatever, but it didn't work out. All their lanes fall behind, and sometimes game plans just kind of go out the window when you fall that far behind.
Yeah, you take a leg out from a chair, it's not going to stand very well.
Yeah. Very much so. All right, well, even though it was a 2-0, it was an incredibly exciting series between these two teams. That is going to do it for our match of the week, but stay tuned. There's more League of Legends coming your way. Next up, Team Envy is challenged to hold on to their 6th place playoff seed in a battle against Phoenix One. We'll be right back.
Expecting to see this one try to be standard for TSM as Doublelift would love to smash his opponent.
What do you mean TSM? Huni, start yelling Immortals. Immortals!
And they can't do anything. Grenade bounces across, and they can't decide whether they want in or whether they want out. So TSM is going to decide for them.
Right here, bounce. I'm TPing long,
Chase. They're looking to avoid Sven Skarin, and it wears off, he goes down. And Team Solo Mid is gonna take a game 1 38-minute win over Immortals. Immortals is gonna have to punch back even harder this time.
Dirksen got the ult off!
Yep, it's on it. He can get back into the fight, get the monster shield on for the team. That's a Hanser hit, but everybody was hit by the crescendo. Oh, he loses the hits. The passive is there. He could get taken down here by Turtle as it wears off.
Okay, we're going, Kevin, we're going.
I'm on Ash.
I'm ulting there, I'm looking for ult. Come, close.
Okay.
Oh, the double bomb! It's gonna be on Adrian. There it is, takes him down. Bjergsen reassesses the fight, says, yes, we can do this.
There's a bomb.
Look at Silver.
I'm ulti.
And then you can end. Chase him. There's no flash.
Penta! Gimme!
Penta!
Gimme!
Kill the Violings. I'm dead.
Woo!
Oh, shit, I'm not.
TSM takes down Immortals.